Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the franchising session here at the World Fitness and Wellness Online Summit. I'm joined by 4 industry leaders today, and very thankfully so to be chairing this session and looking forward to both the opportunities in the franchising market and the challenges and how we're going to overcome those. Joining us in no particular order are Liz Nable. Liz is a multi-site owner and director of Xtend Barre in Australia. Brooke, Daye is the CEO of Anytime Fitness in Taiwan. Kevin Yates is the CEO of Tribe, and Falloon is the founder and joint CEO of Body Fit Training. Very warm welcome to each of you. Ladies and gents, if you can put your URL in the chat box, people can connect with you directly. If you have questions at any given point, please put them in the chat box, and we will work our way through those as best we can. Let's get things started. Now, the first question we want to ask was, looking at the countries in which each of you operate, what are the challenges and what are the dynamics at the moment of the country? Let's try maybe not talk exactly about COVID, but what are the opportunities now in your areas of operation? Liz, I'll start more regional with yourself in New South Wales. What's the market like there, and what do you see as the future?
I think here, I started with Xtend Barre as their first franchisee back in 2012, and back then boutique fitness wasn't really on the scene yet, and particularly not any bar franchises. So we've come a long way since 2012. Boutique fitness has grown exponentially in Australia, following, from the lead in the US. I think some of the challenges we have are creating our own fitness in Australia. That is a profitable business, because obviously we don't have 300 people in our country. We're still a tiny little island nation in terms of population. So I think one of the biggest challenges I've seen as a franchisee is trying to build a really profitable franchise model using best practices from around the world, creating a niche in our Australian fitness landscape for what we do. Obviously, we're a really niche brand as well. So brand awareness is massive for us, because we are the world in some way in the fitness industry, and in a lot of other ways we're the leaders in what we do. So obviously COVID has stopped all in our tracks a little bit, and we've had to pivot, as a lot of industries have had to. But I think, if anything, this has shown, the last 6 months has shown that fitness is a very, very resilient industry. And whether we're online or face-to-face, that it is absolutely one of the best industries to be in right now.
Thanks, Liz. Brooke, coming from a Taiwan perspective, of course, you haven't really had the same impact for the last couple of months as other countries. And in fact, Taiwan as a whole is looking incredibly positive at the moment for the future of fitness. What are your thoughts at the moment on the Taiwanese sector, and what's going to come up next?
Well, you're right, Ross. It's been a very positive 4 months, if I could put it that way. Obviously, we didn't lock down the 100% levels the other regions in Asia, as well as the rest of the world have done. I guess for us, it's just a matter the challenges balancing the growth of the brand with the market expectations. In the last 5 years, Taiwan has grown rather quickly. A lot of boutique operations and local operations, as well as us entering the market with some strong major local players. There is going to be some contraction in this time, and we're seeing that. But also, too, just keeping potential investors and potential franchisees aware that a strong business model, like Anytime Fitness and other operators who operate well with proven concepts, can still succeed going forward post-COVID.
Thanks. Let's maybe move. I know the next 2 gentlemen have multi-country businesses. Cam, let's start with you. What are your thoughts at the moment in time, and where you're operating in the countries that you're investing in?
We're in all over Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, and the US, and each of those regions have been impacted differently. We're certainly looking to continue to expand throughout Australia, with all states operating other than Victoria at the moment, which has just gone into stage 4 lockdowns. But we've had really positive signs. We've had four franchises open in the past 2 weekends. Fantastic member open numbers. which is a credit to the model, credit to our sales team, and says that people are really wanting to get back into health and fitness. So we're really looking, we've got Singapore, Dubai, the US, Vietnam, and the UK on our horizon. A big focus for 2019-20 for us was obviously New Zealand and Singapore. New Zealand being, our nearest eastern neighbour, and very like-minded in terms of its preparedness to jump into fitness businesses, and in particular a model like ours, which is more of a strength-based business. And it's the Singapore market for us is really a stepping stone into Asia, and we've had a really positive response in Singapore, and unfortunately they've got some pretty strict restrictions in place, but again, our franchisees are doing a fantastic job there with engagement. And then the US will remain, a huge focus for us. It's a big market over the coming years. There's some significant challenges there with the current environment, but we're looking at setting up some flagship studios, really, staking a flag in the ground over there, and we really look forward to continuing to grow throughout that country. And beyond that, I guess Canada and the UK are kind of sensible options. I spent a fair bit of time living and working in the UK. I've got some good networks there. Large expat Aussie community there. They know our brand. There's a fantastic fitness community in the UK, especially what I experienced in London. So that makes sense to keep an eye on that for later on in 2020 and 2021.
I think it's exciting to see the number of new franchisees or even new businesses coming into Asia. I mean, sitting here in Singapore, we do see some fantastic brands now coming into the market. That's really interesting for the whole sector here. Kevin, let's talk about yourself. Obviously, you have been based in Europe, but of course you're expanding internationally. But perhaps maybe let's talk about Europe in the moment and where you are currently investing, and what are your thoughts at the moment in likes of UK, Spain, Finland, etc.
Well, it's been, clearly a crazy time, but, first thing we did was, we've got to, as soon as it all happened, all this craziness, was protect the people, protect the premises, and then protect the purse. So we went out with those three key principles to get started on the business. But, each country's got its own policies and different ways it looks after its staff and its people. So if in Spain, for instance, we have a thing called ERTE, which is it's a payment system for the staff, and it's a lot less than in the UK, whereas in the UK it's called furlough, and you get more money than you did in Spain. So you have a whole different variables in how you look after your people and different things that we're allowed to do legally to be able to support our staff. So that really has been a real learning curve for all of us, because obviously the governments were making it up at the same time as we were having to implement it ourselves. And closures and close downs have all been different. In Europe, they were very much harder than in the UK, for instance. We were very much free to walk around and spend some time to go out training. In Spain, it was a full lockdown. You were fully locked down. Russia's totally different again. And Finland was, we still kept some of the stores open and kept running the clubs. But look, there's a real good positive impact as well out of this, from property deals that you're able to get and start to move forward. There's been investment in certain countries. For the UK, for example, we've been able to get certain loans and opportunities for cash for refinancing. And that's happening really well in Spain at the moment. So there's a real opportunity to find capital. Because governments are wanting to invest right now to get you to, which are government-backed loans, so with the banks, so they're trying to get the economy moving at the same pace. So as a franchisee, there's some great opportunities from deals we can get with landlords in Europe at the moment, with deals that we can get from cash deals to be able to grow your own business. So if you have got some free equity or cash, to invest, to do joint funding with banks, they are looking at leveraging. The only issue we've got in some of the banks at the moment, they're not looking at taking on new accounts. There are some that are just consolidating at the moment. But there are real opportunities out there. You've just got to try and find it, and that's what we work hard to assist with.
Thanks, Kevin. Let's maybe look at, I suppose, investment in the future. Of course, you are a multi-site owner. You know, when you're looking at the market at the moment, it's, you know, a contrarian's viewpoint, it is, like Kevin said, a good time to reinvest. The rental rates are down. The demand is coming back for health and fitness. Where do you see yourself investing in the future marketplace? Would you invest regionally, or would you invest perhaps in a different state? What are your thoughts as an investor?
I think COVID has really forced our hand in a lot of ways for a lot of different owners. Perhaps if you're in the studio who's doing well, or studio owners in different franchises who have struggled along the way, but have never really been forced to make a decision about, you know, moving forward or getting cheaper rent or asking for deals. Or I think it's made us all much more proactive in really making our businesses as lean as possible so that we can maximize the profit that we can take home at the end of the day. I guess that's what a good franchise does as well. So, you know, things like putting yourself in a positive cash flow position, which is sometimes, you know, with small business, you know, you go from month to month doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. We've really restructured our business to make it as lean as possible to be able to make it through what we don't know when this will end, obviously. And we've found ourselves in a really good position that we may or may not if this had never happened. So we're trying to take the positives out of this. Like Kevin said, you know, rent, better deals, you know, relocating your studio if you've been thinking about that for a while. Fine-tuning, multitasking staff up instead of having 3 people doing it. We've got one person now wearing 3 different hats. Just being smarter about the way we work, and not doing many things repeatedly that's not working. I definitely think in regions, 100% is a smart way to go. Our brand is obviously pretty boutique and it's pretty niche, but that doesn't say, you know, somewhere where there's a smaller amount of people or a less awareness of our, it's not necessarily a good idea. I think a lot of people think making a decision and potentially, you know, starting a passion business that's fitness, and bringing those brands to things that would potentially have had them for another, you know, 2 to 5 years. So it's really got us thinking differently about the way we do things. And obviously the online portion of what we do as well is here to stay. We have a full live schedule online now that will stay. So we're adding value to it as well because of what's happened in the last 6 months.
Thanks very much, Liz. Kevin and Cam, I'll come to you for this, the extension of the question. You've obviously got an international pipeline in terms of, you know, possible franchisees, possible master franchisees. Looking ahead for the next couple of years, and again, maybe reflecting on what's happened in the past 6 to 9 months, how are you prioritizing your investment strategy in terms of which countries to enter and when? Cam, let me post this question to you first. Is there a list of a criteria of the countries that you want to go into next, and how do you grade that?
Yeah, as I said earlier, Ross, 2019-20 for us was New Zealand and Singapore and the US. Singapore as a springboard into Asia, and New Zealand just being a neighbour, being very similar to Australia. I wouldn't say it was easy, but we're more familiar, so therefore it made sense. The US, we've invested heavily. We have a flagship store in Santa Monica, and we want to continue to grow there, and we've had an enormous amount of interest. Unfortunately, recently we really went hard and started to make some inroads into Texas and Florida. We've actually just signed this week a contract in Florida for a franchise in Fort Lauderdale, but those 2 areas are being heavily hit with COVID, so that might be slower than expected, and that certainly has made us pivot and think differently. We're getting interest in Dubai. We've just done our first contract out in Dubai and the UK, and I guess more than anything is we've got to keep the wheels moving, and if opportunities come up outside of where we were traditionally planning, I guess, to go and focus on, that we've just got to stay fluid. Still got to assess things and do your due diligence and not spread yourself too thin, but going into new regions and countries take time, so it's always good to start having the conversations with the right people. starting to get as much intel and do our own due diligence in places like Dubai that we weren't necessarily focusing on. And if those opportunities arise, be flexible to pivot if they're the right decisions. We've taken an approach that we need to be pliable, but as a result of that, through this last sort of 4 months, we've actually doubled our head office staff. So we've invested heavily in people and put people in the right jobs so that we're not spreading ourselves too thin, so we can focus on growth in new regions, whilst also making sure that we're supporting our current franchisees in all the different regions, because they're all under different sort of policies and restrictions at the moment. So it's really important that we have constant touch points with them, and that we're not focusing on just growing in other areas and leaving them alone. So it's creating that balance between those two things. But for us, we're lucky. The rest of Australia outside of Victoria is up and running, so we're continuing to grow. As I said, we opened 4 studios in the last 2 weeks, and I think we've got about another half a dozen in the next 4 to 5 weeks. So that, along with New Zealand and Singapore for us at the moment, is really where we're growing strongly.
Thanks, Cam. Kevin, to yourself, how do you assess your development road plan? Has it changed much? Has the criteria shifted in terms of where you think Tribe is going to be moving on to next?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a serious roadmap for the UK and Spain, because that's where we were really pushing 2019 and 2020. Again, we've got we're opening a store in a week's time in Madrid, another store. So we've been building that through the middle of the pandemic. And at the same time, we've got 7 new stores opening up in the UK before the end of the year. So that's been a natural movement. We'll have another couple of stores opening up in Madrid and Barcelona in the next 6 months. But things have clearly, slowed us down a little bit in terms of that growth plan with what we were doing, because getting the right builders in at the right time has been difficult as well. So, we're very excited, about Europe. Places like Scandinavia is an area we're working on as well. Obviously, we're already in Finland, but the wider Nordic areas are definitely a place that we want to be. And Asia's definitely on our roadmap with the USA 21, 22. So definitely speaking to the right people, who want to partner with us in whatever way is key to us as well. Finding the right partners who believe in our product and who we are. So we are looking for that. Our team have got a session later on, the next session after this, between 4 and 5 in another room, which everybody will be welcome to come and join them. Carl will be speaking about this. But it definitely, Europe is a big one for us, and Asia in the following few years.
Thanks, Kevin. Brooke, let me bring you in here with a double-edged question. One, I suppose, is what is your future growth looking like in Taiwan? And as you're looking at this growth, how do you have to innovate the business in order to try and capture perhaps new customers, new demographics? So double-edged question. First, what's the investment opportunity for you in the Taiwanese market going forward? And then to capture that, what are you having to innovate internally?
Well, again, I go back to the original statement that I made on the first round was, just making sure that we're out there and we're scaling the message. We're scaling the message in the community, letting people know that the fitness business is still safe. Models are operational and they're also profitable. Something that Kevin touched on earlier is the amount of funding that the government has released in various markets. It's been robust here in Taiwan. The amount of money that's been put out there, the programs and how they've been extended and reformed. And the terms, as well as the cost of capital, is all very exciting. So really just being out there, scaling that message, Ross, is probably our first and foremost action of the day. But also, too, to compete. So we're looking at improving the operations and business models of every one of our stores and making sure that each one of those are profitable during this time. Even though we didn't shut down, we did have some sketchy moments where the government was telling people not to go to gyms. So we were open, but we were in de facto closed. And then, yes, of course, the investment into future digital content platforms, working with regional operators who make these things. One of the things about being in Taiwan and that we're blessed is the amount of coding expertise, computer science expertise, application developers, designers, all of these kinds of people, they're located here, they're hungry, they want work. And quite a few of them are being repatriated back into Taiwan from China. So the brain drain that Taiwan has experienced over the years has been, it's coming full circle. So there's a lot of activity for us as a brand to create more value with our members, so that when you buy a membership at Anytime Fitness, you are getting more for your money.
In terms of design, equipment, are you seeing new things come onto market, Brooke, that are going to be part of future clubs? How do you think that part of the business is going to innovate? Yeah,
for us, being a small footprint, economical, convenient operation that puts its focus on the people. For us, we haven't seen much in our market here in Taiwan. I've met with our vendors. Our vendors are pretty much baked into the cake. We work with Precor and Life Fitness exclusively. We have relationships with them. I've seen the Life Fitness catalog for 2019 and 2020. It's impressive. We're looking at a new design coming from Precor soon. But as far as equipment and usage of the equipment, our footprint for our gym's pretty much baked in. It's baked into our operating model as far as the cost. And we wait on the folks at LLC as well as our good folks in the Philippines to give us the indication of who to work with in that time.
Thanks, Brooke. Liz, I'll come back to you just now. In terms of where you're investing, of course, you're a franchise owner, but of course you are an investor. So you're trying to innovate your businesses in terms of design and experience. Where are you going to be putting some extra resource and time and energy in trying to grow the business?
Well, I guess as a network, as a Xtend Barre, as a franchise network, we've all put resources into executing live online classes. I mean, obviously with the getting closed down, we got less than 12 hours notice. So when we started out, it was pretty slapdash. It was just, a camera in the studio, and we've invested resources into making that more professional, as have most of my fellow franchisees, so that I guess together we can pool our resources and create a really fine-tuned, polished, professional live online classes for the foreseeable future. Like I said, we've sort of saved money in other areas where perhaps we were wasting our money a little bit doing the same things over and over. We've gone, because we're limited in terms of our brand awareness on the ground due to social distancing and all that sort of thing. We're investing a lot more in the digital space in terms of our social media and our marketing online. Before I used to be quite hesitant about that and didn't really understand how that worked, but really spending our time getting to know that space and putting our money behind that. And then obviously the quality of the studios as well. We've spent COVID renovating 2 of our studios completely. And again, have seen a huge payback from that already, because, we're capitalizing on some of our competitors not reopening and reopening with, beautiful studios that are on brand. And spending our money that way instead.
Thanks, Liz. Kevin, innovation coming through from Tribe. What are you doing differently, perhaps now than you were 12 months ago?
Well, it's I think design is one of our pillars, innovation in design, and we've spent a lot of time trying to ensure that the design of our clubs are also an experiential experience. I mean, our clubs are beautiful and really thought out, and everything's got integrity. And I think that's what the boutique industry has done for the whole fitness sector. It's that when we started to model this back in 2014 and then started to develop beautiful clubs, is that even that really transcended into the gym market, because everybody had to up their game in terms of the design and the feel and how they were moving forward. But technology is now the big thing. We've invented our own way of monitoring technology. We're going to live, as most people are as well. So we've now just created our own live studio, which is coming out very shortly in September. So a whole digital presence and how good we can be from a digital market, which is a busy market as well. We've spent a lot of time innovating in this over the last year, and luckily we were already building something before the issues started, and so we've been able to really put more capital into this to be able to grow this. And what's actually great in the UK, there's funding from government so that you can actually get grants, very, very favorable grants when you start to build on technology and innovation to help fund this kind of movement as well, which is pretty exciting. So there are things out there to help innovation and technology with government assistance.
Sticking on that, Kevin, do you feel as if investors of the future for Tribe are looking for lower cost solutions, and is that something you're now looking to offer?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really great question for us, because that's what we've been working on right away from the start of everything. We've worked on a real cost-efficient modeling, maintaining the experience of what we are as Tribe, but also really getting into the detail and the finer detail of value engineering the facility so that we can get it to a certain price for an affordable position for a personal trainer who might some clubs are unfortunately going to be closing down, and it gives them an opportunity to actually set themselves up in business. So we have value engineered a new Tribe format. It's exactly the same, just a smaller based facility that you'll be able to purchase for a really affordable price for a personal trainer. So we've worked very hard on that to value engineer the stores so that we can continually move, because what we're seeing in the market is if we can get the price to a really great level, if we can get our property, which we're doing around Europe and the UK. I mean, property prices in Europe in certain areas have dramatically dropped. London's not dropped at the moment due to landlords have not felt the effect yet, but they will do in the coming months. But in certain areas, you're getting very, very favourable deals in Europe where you can, and if we can get the model price right, which we now have, that we've done, we believe that it'll be a real win-win for both our new franchisees and for ourselves.
I was speaking to a friend today in Hong Kong who's just signed a new agreement for a new gym coming out next couple of months, and she got her rent for 40% what it was going for in January before the crisis. So look, there are incredible deals there. Cam, coming over to yourself, it seems to be going great for you. You know, you've obviously got the model, you've got the momentum, you've got the design. What else can you innovate in the next couple of months, next couple of quarters? Is there things that you've learned in terms of making the product better externally or internally?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's been a really interesting phase for us because we have experienced sort of exponential growth over the past 6 to 10 months, and we've got, you know, barring what happens in Australia, some 90 clubs opening in the next sort of 6 to 9 months. So we're not sort of innovating per se, more than I guess what we're really loving is showcasing what body fit training is and why we think we're different and better in our particular niche in the market. And what we're really focused on is really making sure that with the growth and momentum that we're getting, that we can showcase that the design of the studios is fantastic, that our staff and our support that we provide franchisees from the moment they sign through to launch day and beyond is fantastic. And you know, I mentioned the 4 studios that opened recently. 3 were at operational break even on day 1. So we feel like the low-cost, high-yield model that we have is great. We're building fantastic communities through fitness, and we're continuing to try and be better at that. And that comes through training of our franchisees and their staff and education. You know, our member retention is around 11 months per member, and our visitations are just under 5 days a week. So through getting a lot of member surveys, franchisee surveys, staff surveys, I think getting that direct feedback is the way that we innovate. I guess it's probably not the right word, but it's how do we make our member experience better on a continual basis? Because as Kevin was saying, I think the industry now with boutiques and a lot of niche areas filled, there's just not a lot of poor operators. The fit outs are fantastic. The equipment's great. The programming's great. The member experience is great. So for us, I think that's a given. That's the base, and we need to grow from there and find other ways to be better. And for us, it's all about the people, our franchisees and their staff. And if we can support them and provide them with the tools, then hopefully they're going to deliver, and our members are going to have a fantastic member experience. And that's what we're really focusing on is just the member experience and being able to continually tell great stories off the back of that to potential investors.
You touched on it there, Cam, with franchisee engagement. You know, how are you empowering? How are you educating? How are you motivating your franchisees? Has there been certain maybe tools, methodologies, practices over the past few months that you and the team at BodyFit have been implementing with your franchisees to make sure they feel more powered and energized?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that we've done really well, and we did initially, was, if anything, we over communicated. We certainly didn't want them to feel alone, and you know, all of a sudden all their businesses are shut, and there's a lot of uncertainty. So we spent a lot of time communicating. For the first round of shutdowns, when the whole country was shut down, we had regular weekly Zoom calls with all of our franchisees, and sometimes they were broken into groups. Our franchisees that had signed contracts but weren't yet open, we had regular weekly calls with them, just touch points on how are they going, what are we up to, how can we help them. All of our head office staff were on those calls, so communication was huge. And then for our open sites, we do quarterly training, so every 13 weeks we get in front of all of our franchisees and their staff, and we have various touch points on those quarterly trainings. It could be anything from sales techniques and value adds to the technical side of the training and delivering the programs and role playing, being in front of a crowd and introducing a class and being more relaxed. So it's been a big investment from a head office point of view to make sure that we are supporting our franchisees. Like everyone, I think on this panel, we pivoted and we got the online platforms up and running, and we made a decision at head office to run two programs. We have a resistance program and a bodyweight one. 100% of the revenue went to our franchisees, so we thought that was important to give them the best opportunity to stay viable, come out the other side strong, and create a lot of goodwill within the network. And so we've found our franchisee group in particular has become really tight through this, which again is fantastic, because for future franchisees or investors that are coming in and doing their homework on various brands and they secret shop and they talk to other people, we feel there's a lot of good stories at the moment, and the P&L and the numbers and the pre-sale numbers and the member numbers, they all sell themselves. I think for us at the moment, the gold dust is the relationships, the goodwill, the community that we're building, and that's been a big focus for us.
Thanks, Cam. Kevin, same question to you. You touched on it earlier as well about obviously developing the live studios and the online. That will obviously empower franchisees. It will get them a lot more energized about the future. But what else have you been doing? And, you know, how do you act as a leader at the front of this organization to try and get everyone through this crisis and then to refocus itself on the upside that lies ahead?
I think it's... you know, the first thing is exactly as Cam said, you know, was communication. They needed to understand where we were as an organization, as a business. And my first real role, I think, as a CEO, was to ensure that we were protecting our people. And they need to feel safe, they need to be protected, they need to feel supported, but they also needed honesty and integrity of what we were doing as an organization, because some of the stuff we just didn't have answers for. So, you know, but they also need to know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. You know, the fact is that COVID, whether we like it or not, will either still be here or it will end, but business will have to go back to normal. It can't keep going like this. So at some point, we're going to come out of it. So part of the discussions, you know, is a lot of the time for our teams was about, you know, showing the innovation, showing great things that we're doing, keeping them motivated and spirits high because they're on lockdown, but at the same time, keeping that communication flowing. We ran what we called a campfire. So Matteo, our Chief Experience Officer, he ran campfires with all our staff globally. Anybody could come on and they basically spoke about the business, what was happening. Every single person, regardless of location and times, they all came into these fires to chat and share stories and everything else. So that's been a real, and we've kept that going. We're going to keep that going now every Friday. That's going to keep going now, even after this lockdown. But again, you know, people like to see success and they want to see that things are happening. So where we speak very highly, we've got clubs opening, new stores opening in Madrid. We've got another store opening now in Bristol. Don't worry, we've got another one opening up in Manchester. So we would feed them like good stories every other week, a new drop, something special. Now we've got live happening. This is drawing. We've got some new employers we've brought in. So we want to keep spirits high and keep the motivation going. And I think my team have done an outstanding job through all that, and they've all taken a collective responsibility to support each other. And our final pillar is kindness. And you know, we're a kind company. We care about our people. We care deeply about our staff. And, you know, and it's key to them to, you know, now we're bouncing forward. We don't call it bounce back. We call the business we're bouncing forward. Tribe doesn't bounce back. And they've all come back with enlightened spirits to drive our organization forward. So we're very excited about the next chapter. As long as the government doesn't reclose us down like they're doing with Cam and a few others, we're fingers crossed that we can keep momentum. And that's why we're bringing live in, because with live and with live on-demand workouts that we're going to be doing, we can add a new element to the tribe community.
Thanks, Kevin. Brooke, maybe let's focus on yourself, because although the others have kind of gone through this, I suppose, chapter of crisis management, and it's obviously ongoing for some, you're pretty much still in this growth mindset for you and your team, and obviously full ahead with the opportunity. How do you empower and keep leading a team focusing on this growth mindset? Is it again just reinforcement and support? Have you done anything differently over the past few months, looking at other operators and what you've learned? What is the growth mindset for you, and what are your thoughts going forward?
Well, I think it starts with, first of all, being realistic about what's going on. I want our team, whether it's our franchisees or our core team here that is responsible for scaling the narrative and scaling the clubs, to understand that, you know, we're not living in a dream world here, that we need to be prepared for emergencies, shutdowns, any kinds of things that would end our business. So we've had regular meetings with our emergency team talking about what we would do in the event of closures. And I think those preparations makes the Warriors hard at ease and makes our victory assured, so to speak. So we've taken the time to always have these meetings. We're having them again this afternoon. In fact, I have one at 5 o'clock just to review all of our liabilities to make sure and be on top of that. And then we can get with the business at hand of growing the brand. I think that allows us to be spiritual in our talks and in our outlook. You know, engaging our owners and our fellow franchisees is probably the first step after that, and talking to them and making sure that all of their needs are hit. You know, we've undergone quite a few changes here since 2020 rolled around, and it's not just COVID-19. It's we've made adjustments in pricing in our model. We've made adjustments in our operational structure, what we deliver to our franchisees as far as their value. So it's been an ongoing process of educating them why we did it, what was the purpose, what was the thinking behind it, and all of the logic that goes into that. So it's more about client management that way with our franchisees, and they've been receptive to that and excited because they feel that something is going on in the country now, that somebody has, or an organization has a direction, and they're pushing it forward. 85% of the clubs here in Taiwan are owned by multi-club owners. So it's a really good source to draw from. And it's exciting to be able to get out there and tell these people what our vision is. But again, Ross and everyone else, just making sure that they understand that we're being realistic. You know, we're not trying to paint a rosy picture. We've got our eye on COVID. I have a great group of advisors who advise me from top doctors but all over the world and give me up-to-date information about all the treatments and everything that's going like that. So they're confident in the fact that we're getting the right information. And then, you know, pivoting off of that, it's a being out there and scaling up our digital presence, social media, letting the community know through our existing clubs and all their social media platforms that we are available to grow, and we're excited to grow. We feel confident. We've matured into the market. We've grown up here. It's been 5 years. We're in our 6th year now, and that we're ready to take that next step and assume our position as one of the top brands in the country.
Thanks, Brooke. Let's change direction, ladies and gents, to try and look at how we're going to bring more investment into the sector. Liz, obviously, as a multi-site owner, you are yourself investing quite heavily. What do you think has to change, or what else can we do as an industry to attract both new investors into the sector and, of course, people like yourself to perhaps invest even more capital and spend some more time in the sector?
I think without relating to COVID too much, but I think because of everything that's happened, I have seen a new drive from people who perhaps weren't willing to take a risk before to, put their money behind a business, particularly a fitness business, coming out of the woodwork and really seeing that, that they like being in charge of their own schedule, and they like, they're more likely to take a risk now than before to put their money where their mouth is and open their own thing. I think I would be investing, I would be looking more, like what we mentioned before, into being smarter in the way I invest my money and looking at setup costs and that sort of thing, and bringing those right down. Xtend Barre is a pretty low cost model in terms of setup. We're a bar workout, so it's pretty simple. I don't know if a lot of people are aware of how all the different models work. Obviously, we're a lower entry point, and I think brand awareness comes with that as well, with people understanding, it is more affordable than they think to get a start in this franchise. I would be more likely to be going out into regional Australia and going into territories that are untapped, because we've seen a big influx of people coming into our online schedules who haven't previously had access to what we do. And I think also, being smarter about the way we market the franchise to potential owners. We have the same master franchisor as Anytime Fitness does in Australia. And so tapping into those networks and helping those people see that they can have their foothold in Xtend Barre and perhaps an Anytime Fitness or a 24-hour fitness group, and, cross-germinating in that way. We're a higher cost model, a higher maintenance boutique model, and you can obviously have your foot in one of ours, as well as an Anytime Fitness or a lower cost mass market model as well. So just getting that education out there that it's possible to kind of have your hand in a few of these different segments of the fitness industry.
Thanks, Liz. Brooke, I'll swing back over to you. Obviously, on the issue of multi-site owners, you're working with a lot of multi-site owners. They are continuing to invest. How do you bring in new investors outside this kind of common group in order to try and grow even further? Is it reaching into new demographics? Is it going into perhaps businesses that have excess capital following this crisis? Where do you see the opportunity to try and get new people in the door?
Yeah, full disclosure, I'm part of a group that's also the largest franchisor here in Taiwan with Anytime Fitness. So, I come from that side, and it's exciting to see, really, to be honest, Ross, it's all about presentation for us. It's about presenting, the consistent presentation. So we have a couple of strategies that we developed. Obviously, there's a general presentation of the brand and letting people know that we're here and that we're in market. That'll be driven in person as well as digital media. But we've identified a new way of presenting the brand inside specific districts and communities. And we go into the community, we identify sites that we actually like. We speak to our existing franchisees and we say to them, listen, we really like this site and here's why. We base them on demographic criteria as well as household income and real estate values. Also to potential of the area, age of the area in the specific site in question. We go to our specific, our owners and we say, would you like for us to go out and fundraise for this site and find you some partners? Would you be interested in that? And our franchisees have found that to be acceptable. They like it. It offloads some of the risk. It takes off some of the burden for capital and allows them to continue to gain ownership and expand their reach in their groups. And we had an event last Friday. It went on very successful. About 20 people showed up for it. And there were some excellent conversations that developed for them. So it's a plan that we're going to be using here going forward. So we have the traditional model where we're out there, we're sharing the virtues of the brand. We have an excellent brand, a global brand. We're excited to bring it to Taiwan and grow it further, but more specifically partnering with our existing franchisees in a managed service model with investors, because, you know, our gyms are not really inexpensive to build. You know, they do cost money. And we have found for the last 5 years that people, they have a few million NT dollars, 2, 3, and they want a piece of the gym industry. They don't know how to run it, but they want in. They like fitness. They like what's going on. They want to be an owner. And this is a way to include those people out there. And then once they get it a little bit comfortable in their own skin being an owner, we found in other markets, specifically the Philippines, that these people then go out and buy multi-club units on their own.
Thanks, Brooke. Kevin, of course, you alluded to it earlier that you're having this kind of maybe slightly reduced CapEx cost of a new design, but how else are you managing to look to bring in new investors? And perhaps even wider, how can we as an industry try and bring in both new franchisees and, of course, new master franchisees?
Yeah, I mean, similar to Brooke, I mean, we've just done a similar deal ourselves where we're the management agent as well. So it's definitely a real opportunity, because clearly a lot of good investors don't want to operate it. They just want to see the fruits of somebody else's labor, and they've got the investment. They want to do a return on the capital employed. So they're happy with that. So, and that's a great way of moving forward. The other thing that we have done a few times lately is because the land deals are so cheap, we become the landlord. So we've taken the deals on the building so that we can sublet it back to the franchisee to assist them as well, so that we try and take a little bit of risk off them and in terms of the deal. We've also negotiated. We're doing all the negotiations at the moment to assist a lot of our franchisees, because they're not experts in negotiating with commercial properties. So we're obviously doing all that on their behalf as well, to make sure that they get the best deal, because, you know, it is, at the end of the day, it's a property play. You know, when you're looking for the main property, you want to get it as cost efficient in the highest traffic and best density area that you possibly can. So and usually those come with a high price. So we're working hard on both those areas, similar to Brooke there and myself, and areas where we can assist being the landlord. A price is always going to be cash out is going to be always a push for a franchisee, and so, you know, ensuring that you've got the right leasing facilities in place to assist them, or the banks are doing joint funding so that you can reduce the cash out. For franchisees is always, it's a difficult one. So but this is where the deals are right now. So if you wanting to get into this kind of business now, and you're wanting to grow your own business, this is actually the time. This is the time to raise, like we said before. The best thing about the debt at the moment is cheap debt. So if you can get the capital and raise it, if you can find the land deals, the opportunities are there, and it's like I said before, we are going to come out of this, and if you can raise the capital now at a cheap debt, get the lands at a cheap price, you're going to have a great business when everybody comes through this.
Thanks, Kevin. All good points. Cam, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, obviously for us in the franchising space, as Kevin just alluded to, was for us it's price. We're low yield, low volume, high yield, low volume, and at the moment we're very fortunate that just our ongoing success is really enough for owner operators and also pure investors to get excited about, and we do have a really good mix of both, and we have skill sets from so many different industries coming into our network, which is fantastic, and it's great for our model to be able to prove that the model does work for those pure investors who have the money and do just want to sit back and have someone else do the work for them, versus the owner operators, and giving them an opportunity to have a career in the industry where they've got a lot of passion. So most of our franchisees now and our investors are coming from word of mouth, a lot from our own franchisees, but also interestingly from competing franchises, which I think is a great thing for the industry. we're spending money like everyone else on, SEM and social media. That plays more of a lead gen role, but more broadly just an overall brand recognition role. And more recently for us, we're tapping into things like LinkedIn, which we're really trying to look into and leverage and gain some further traction for larger corporate investors, multi-site owners, master franchisors, and we're exploring that space at the moment.
Thanks, Cam. I know there's been a couple of questions asked, ladies and gentlemen. One around how are you dealing with opening new franchisees overseas, but I think Kevin's touched on that. Another one about what do you prefer in terms of a model? Do you prefer a flat monthly royalty fee or a percentage of the monthly revenue model? Kevin, what's your thoughts on either a flat monthly royalty fee or a monthly revenue model?
Well, I think, it depends on the country you're going into and where you've got accessibility to access data. For example, in our Russia store, it's easier to do an agreed flat royalty fee that takes it across. One, because you can't have any of the data; it has to be held in Moscow, and it's very difficult to see certain things. So I think it depends on the country you're going to work to, and it depends on the commercials you're going to work up with your franchisee. And the scalability. If the franchisee is going to be a multi-store owner and grow the stores to an agreed schedule and timeline, that as long as it benefits both parties and you want it to be a win-win, then the both can work very well. But it's definitely depends whether you're allowed to do certain things as well legally from a licensing point of view and a franchise legal position as well.
Okay, ladies, Cam, you want to follow up on that?
Yeah, Ross, it's a really good question actually, and we currently do both, funnily enough. So we have a fixed fee for a period of time, and that allows the franchisees to really have a fixed P&L. They know their costs, they know what to work to get to a certain member number and start to break even and earn money. Once they hit a certain threshold, that then turns into a percentage of revenue that we then cap. So we feel like that's a really fair way to do it. It's a lower upfront initially on that monthly basis, but then does turn into we have a 6% of revenue, but it all is also capped. So we have a belief that the really good operators should benefit from it. They're the heroes in our business. They help us to grow the business, and they should benefit more so than us continuing to take royalties ongoing. So we actually have a split, which we find works really well, and people think it's really fair.
Perfect. Okay, ladies and gents, we've got a couple of minutes left. Let me just give you something positive to end on. We will think of something inspirational and motivational for the entire of the audience. Liz, let me start with yourself. The same question for all. What are you most looking forward to in the next couple of months, next couple of years? What's really exciting you and keeping you going?
In terms of business?
Business, personal, you name it. You can say anything. Perhaps you're learning a new language, Liz. Who knows?
I'm looking forward to some freedoms again. I think we maybe took everything for granted, and no one obviously saw this coming. So I'm just looking forward to being able to move freely, hug people, to not have to be worried about, getting locked down or the business shutting down. I think this has made, it's just certainly made me much more resilient, because everyone thinks about their worst case scenario, right, in business, and this is the worst case scenario. And I think we've all kind of grown from it and learned from it, and we've gotten smarter about the way we do things. So I'm really looking forward to taking all that on board and being able to move forward, personal and in business, and feeling like we really accomplished something this year, and to have our business still open and still, thriving after all this is, I guess, a testament to all of us. So, yeah, excited for some freedoms going forward, hopefully in the next few months.
Absolutely, that's a fantastic wish. Gents, you've got 30 seconds each. Let me start with Kevin. Same question.
So I'm looking forward to more kind of things like this. I think the industry is going to be brought more together. I think there's going to be more togetherness. I think we'll be able to do more Zooms and more really cool ways of doing this kind of engaging with the wider audience, and to help club operators, independent operators, and see what we're doing on a wider scale. So I think that as an industry, this has benefited us in a different way, which I'm excited about.
Thanks, Kevin. Cam?
Yeah, same as Kevin, but also, and I never thought I'd say this because I was a little bit sick of jumping on planes, but primarily looking forward to our Victorian sites opening and starting to grow again, and then getting on a plane and seeing all our franchisees and you know, seeing them again, helping them out, growing their businesses, and then expanding. It's Zoom's great, and it provides a lot of opportunities for us, but there's nothing like touching and feeling and being in the product and seeing our franchisees do their best work in action. So I'm looking forward to that.
Good man. And then Brooke, last words?
Yeah, you know, from a personal standpoint, just getting back to Canada, seeing my mother and father, you know, who've been part of the lockdown this whole time. I've stuck over here in Taiwan. I haven't been able to chance to see them. That's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to that, seeing my extended family. But, you know, just from a human standpoint, when COVID lifts, there's been so much change in human life, and I'm looking forward to exploring that space as quickly, as enthusiastically as possible. There's so much that has changed in recent months and everything, and it's going to be an exciting time for the next decade. And I'm looking forward to sharing that with people in this group, this industry. Well, it's just all walks of life. It's going to be an exciting time.
Well, I think that's a great note to end on, ladies and gentlemen. The time is up. Our session is over. Thank you very much, Liz, Brooke, Cam, Kevin, for all your sites. We'll have this session recording up within the next 48 hours and email to you. But for just now, thank you very much for joining us. See you all later, folks. Thank you very much.
Thank you.